right, almost done here. Just get the other side.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, together. Teamwork, beautiful, beautiful. Up and down.
Great.
Okay. Hi there, my name's Rory. This is Dana. Last summer, that was a scorcher, wasn't it? And I suppose that's probably why you decided to purchase a quality Atlantic above-ground pool this summer.
Not only is it an affordable, quality pool package, but it's one that you can install yourself to save even more money.
Putting the pool together is pretty straightforward, but you do have to read the manual carefully, just so you put it together perfectly.
On this tape, Rory and I are going to demonstrate all the steps that you're going to be doing. So if you watch the tape and follow the manual, you'll see exactly how easy it is to do.
There are 4 major parts to this pool. Make sure you've got them all before you begin. There's the pool kit, which consists of the wall, the base hardware, and the verticals and top rails. And of course, there's a liner. You also require a skimmer, a pump, and filtration package. In addition, you'll need a few tools to make things easier. You should have a flat shovel or spade, a sturdy garden rake, a hammer or mallet, a sturdy wooden or metal peg, like an eaves trough nail, a short wooden 2x2 stake, a length of sturdy cord or string, a roll of duct tape, some spray paint with a vertical nozzle, a number 3 Phillips screwdriver, and if possible, a cordless drill with a Phillips bit. And depending on the size of pool you're installing, you'll need a tape measure of up to 30 feet or 10 meters.
We've rented a surveyor's transit so that we can level our pool very accurately. These are available at most tool rental outlets, but we'll also show you how to level your pool without one. For that, you'll need a 4-foot carpenter's level and a good straight length of 2x4 or 2x6.
You'll also need material to create a soft bottom for the pool. Many people choose brick sand for the bottom, but we've decided to use a foam bottom kit. In either case, you'll still need some bricked sand to construct a smooth cove around the inside edge of the pool bottom. And you'll need a quantity of crushed limestone for the pool foundation. The first thing you need to decide is just where to put your pool. There's a couple of things you may need to keep in mind. First of all, there may be local bylaws or stipulations regarding your pool, how close it can be to fences or buildings, or regulations concerning fence height or gate locks. And you may need a building permit before you begin, so make sure you check with local authorities.
You need to keep away from trees with overhanging branches and overhead wires and clotheslines. You should also check with your local utilities before you start to make sure you're not putting your pool on top of sewer or water lines, natural gas pipes or buried electrical, cable TV or telephone wires. Or in our location out in the country, over the septic tank.
The most important consideration is terrain. You need a large flat area with sufficient drainage. And if you're going to build a deck, a pool shed, or any other building, take those into consideration as well. Your pool must be on dry, firm earth. It can't be over concrete, asphalt, tar paper, sand, gravel, peat moss, wood, or chemically treated soil.
We've decided to put the pool off to this side of the yard, close to the existing deck. It'll be in the sun most of the day.
The first step is to locate the center of your pool area. We're putting up a 24-foot round pool, so we're going to measure out a little larger than the radius of our pool. That's 13 feet or about 4 meters from where we want the pool wall next to the deck. Remember to adjust that length for the size of pool you've purchased. Mark the center point temporarily by driving a spike into the ground.
To mark out the circle where the pool will sit, use a can of spray paint and a piece of cord. Determine the length of the string you need. You can find that from the chart on page 1-4 of the instruction manual. For our pool, it's 12.5 feet or 380 centimeters. With the string at the right length, I'll just shake the can, turn it upside down. With the strings tight, I'll spray a circle on the grass to mark the pool outline.
You have to remove the sod and other vegetation from underneath the pool. Decaying grass and weeds can ruin the pool liner and also give off an unpleasant odor. If nut grass grows in your area, you'll have to get expert advice from your pool dealer about how to kill it because it will grow up and puncture the liner.
Now we're going to remove the sod and level the earth. Using your spade, cut through the sod on the paint marks. Make another set of cuts about 8 inches or 20 centimeters away. Slip your spade under the edge of the sod and keeping the blade nearly horizontal, cut under the strips of sod. the strips into manageable lengths. Roll them up and remove them from the area. For a smaller area, this method works fine, but we've got a lot of grass to take up. So Rory's gone down to the local rental center and it's got a sod cutter. That is going to make it a lot easier. After the sod has been removed, make sure the area is free of stones or roots. Now comes the job of making sure the pool foundation is perfectly flat.
Remember we rented a surveyor's transit for this job? Here's how it works. We'll set the transit in an area where it won't be disturbed as we work. We extend the legs so the transit is at eye level. See the bubble in the transit head? We make fine adjustments until it's right in the center.
That makes the transit perfectly level. Now we look through the eyepiece and focus it on the measuring stick. The transit focuses perfectly along a horizontal plane, so no matter where the stick is placed, the reading should be identical when we bring it into focus. That's how we'll know the ground is perfectly flat.
But if you don't have a transit, there is another way to make sure that the ground is level. Remember, the pool size area shouldn't vary by more than an inch or 25 millimeters from one side to the other. Otherwise, the pool could collapse. Find a straight piece of 2x4 and cut it to the length shown in the chart on page 1-4 of the instruction manual. For our pool, it's 12.5 feet or 380 centimeters. You might consider using a thicker board for longer lengths to ensure it's straight. We're using a 1x6. Drive a 4-inch nail into the edge at one end of the board and then cut off the nail head. Place the 4-foot carpenter's level in the middle of this board and hold it in place with duct tape.
Remove the peg from the center of the pool and replace it with a 2x2 stake driven down flush with the ground. We'll use a pencil to mark an X across the top of the stake to find the exact center.
Take the board, place the cut-off nail in the middle of the X, and hammer it into the top. Now, we need to identify the area of lowest elevation. In this yard, there's a slight slope away from the house. So the point of lowest elevation is furthest away from the deck on the far side of the pool. And we've already confirmed this with the transit.
You have to bring the higher areas down to the height of the lowest part of the circle. That means scraping away the earth in this area, near the deck, not filling in the low spots. The pool needs to sit on undisturbed earth. Filling in low spots will create an unstable foundation and could cause the pool to collapse.
Point the board towards the area of lowest elevation and check the bubble on the carpenter's level. You may have to drive the stake down further into the ground in order to get level with the area of lowest elevation. Okay, now we have the stake at the same depth as the lowest elevation.
That's it.
We'll swing the board around in a circular fashion and scrape up all the excess soil so that no matter which way the board points, we'll always have a level reading. This is a very critical step in the process, so please take your time. Work carefully to make sure you get the foundation perfectly level. Now, if you find that you're dealing with something other than just a slight slope, you might want to consider bringing in the heavier equipment.
When you finish, double check the outer 12 inches or 30 centimeters in this area where the pool wall will be, making sure there are no gaps or dips in the ground here.
To ensure this area is completely level, you can pack in a small amount of crushed limestone. Tamped down, it makes a stable base and is quite easily leveled.
For the next step, you'll need the base plates and base rails from your kit.
You've got your base plate, and you'll keep the wide edge towards the outside of the pool. You'll take your base rails, you'll slide it in through the little track, and take the other one, not necessarily meet, you'll leave about a ½ inch gap in between the two, place it down, repeat the process along the circumference of the pool. To keep the rails from slipping out of the plates, take a pair of pliers and carefully bend just 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters of the rail lip outward slightly.
Although this step is listed as optional in the instruction manual, it's a good idea to provide support for the pool verticals by placing a patio stone or building a crushed limestone pad under each base plate. First, let's determine the exact location for each base plate. Place a nail in the center stake and tie a piece of string to it. Measure out the radius of your pool, in our case, 12 feet or 365 centimeters, and mark the string at that point. Now arrange the base plates so the face of each plate is exactly the same distance away from the center stake.
Now you mark a square around each base plate in the soil, about 12 by 12 inches or 30 by 30 centimeters. Now set the base rails and plates aside and excavate the areas you've marked out. You want to sink the patio stone level with the ground surface and level with every other patio stone. Use your small spade to carefully dig out the earth under the patio stones to a depth of about 3 inches or 75 millimeters. Try not to dig too deep. A good way to level the area is to put in a small quantity of crushed limestone. Make a tamper from one long and one short piece of 2x4. Dampen it slightly and tamp it down firmly. Place the patio stone on the limestone.
You can check the stones for level by replacing the 1x6 on the stake and setting it on each patio stone. Or you can check each one using your transit. If you need to, remove the stones and add or remove crushed limestone, tamping down the area before replacing the patio stone. If you prefer, you can also use limestone pad instead of patio stones. Just dig out the area you've marked to a depth of about 2 inches or 5 centimeters and fill the hole with crushed limestone. Dampen it slightly and tamp it down tightly. The limestone pad must be level with the surrounding earth and the other limestone pads. Check this with your level or with your transit.
Once you're certain about the levels, remove the center stake, fill the hole with some loose soil, and tamp it down tightly. Now let's bring back the base rails and plates and assemble them fully. You need to maintain about a ½ inch or 13 millimeter gap between each of the base rails. Here's a neat little trick. As a helping hand, cut enough pieces of wood a ½ inch thick and then place them in the base plate between the rails, secure, and there you go. It's only temporary, but it serves the purpose of keeping that ½ inch gap. If you've decided to use sand for the bottom, now is a good point to bring it in, otherwise you'll be hoisting it over the pool walls. You'll want to cover the area to a depth of about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, but keep it away from the base rails until the walls are up, otherwise you'll clog them with sand. We've decided to use the preformed pool bottom.
There are a couple of advantages. First, it won't shift around or leave footprints like sand can. And second, it acts as an insulator, which helps your pool water retain heat better. If you're unsure of what to use, ask your pool dealer for their recommendation.
Now comes a really important part in the process. putting up the pool wall. You have to wait until a calm day because if it's too windy, you run the risk of bending or damaging the wall, and it's just plain and simply too difficult to handle.
If you've got a friend or a neighbor that can help, like Jeff here, get extra hands to help you with the pool wall. It'll make the job a lot easier. We'll start by unpacking the pool liner and spreading it out in the sun for a couple of hours. This will help make it more pliable and easier to work with when it comes time to install it. That'll help you remove any wrinkles. Place 2 large pieces of cardboard or square chunks of plywood in the center of the pool. Unpack the pool wall and stand it on end on this plywood. Look for the arrow to tell you which way is up.
Cut the strap, being careful not to scratch the pool wall with the knife. The pool wall is wrapped really tightly, so to make things easier, Jeff and I are going to unravel the coil.
For the best results, place the skimmer on the downwind side of the pool. That way, leaves and debris will naturally find their way into the skimmer.
In this backyard, the winds tend to blow out of the west, so we'll put that skimmer cutout to the east.
By the way, here's where Atlantic Pools has used its engineering know-how to your advantage. This edge shows the quadrifold system. The wall seam is formed by a double fold that's 4 times the thickness of the wall. And notice that the holes aren't evenly spaced. They're engineered to counter the force of the water on the pool wall for extra strength and stability.
In order to hide the seam of the pool wall and for the overall strength of the pool, the starting end of the wall must be placed directly over a base plate. Slide the bottom edge of the wall into the curved bottom rails.
This is where extra hands are useful. Get someone to hold this end of the pool wall in place as you work. Or you can use a ladder and temporarily duct tape the wall end to the ladder to hold it up. You'll need a ladder later to climb in and out of the finished pool, so it's probably a good idea to do this anyway.
You'll find these slotted tubes in your pool hardware kit. Now, as you uncoil the wall, what you want to do is fasten them to the top edge of the pool wall, making sure the ends line up with a base plate. Now, Atlantic is one of the only pool manufacturers to use these unique tubes. They allow the wall to stand on its own without having to use cumbersome guy wires. You'll really appreciate this feature. Where the slotted tubes meet, join them with a slotted tube connector. Slide one end of the connector onto the tube and slide the next tube into the connector, leaving a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter gap between each slotted tube.
Continue working your way around the pool, uncoiling the wall as you go and moving the plywood sheets or cardboard as necessary. Keep sliding the bottom edge into the base rails and covering the top edge with slotted tubes and tube connectors.
Nice. Beauty. Okay, you see we have a gap. Don't worry if that happens to you. It happens often. Either you're too short or it overlaps, it's too long. It doesn't take much to make some minor adjustments so that the holes on both ends of the walls actually meet up.
If the wall is too short like ours, just remove the small wooden blocks from between the base rails and tap carefully on the wall against the base plate on the outside of the pool. This will make the circle smaller and bring your ends closer together.
If the wall's too long, do the same thing from the inside of the pool to make the circle larger. When you have the two wall ends close to each other, it's a good idea to use a screwdriver, put it in the bottom hole and the top hole to keep the wall aligned. Make sure you don't scratch the paint though.
Fasten the wall together using these nuts and bolts. The bolt heads go on the inside of the pool and the nuts on the outside.
Once you have all your nuts and bolts in place, fasten them securely using a cordless power drill with a Phillips head. But make sure you don't over-tighten them. This can create metal burrs and that can tear the pool liner. Okay.
After you've tightened all the bolts, cover each bolt head with 2 or 3 strips of duct tape. That'll protect the liner from any damage.
Once you've got the pool wall up, what you want to do is take a piece of cord and a line level, stretch it from one side of the pool to the other, and make sure it's all level. You just hook the level onto the cord and stretch it out across the pool wall.
Yeah, pull it tight.
Check the wall in several different directions. Make sure the pool area is level within 1 inch or 25 millimeters across the entire diameter. Remember, an unlevel pool is extremely unsafe. It could collapse suddenly.
You should also check to ensure that the pool is round. Measure across the pool at each base plate. Each measurement must be no more than 1 inch or 25 millimeters larger or smaller than any others. Nudge the base plates in or out with your foot to make adjustments.
Remember, adjusting the pool like this could cause the base rails and plates to slip out of alignment. Once you have the shape, recheck the base plates to make sure the rails are centered and the plates themselves are centered over the limestone pad or the patio stone. You want to check your slotted tubes and connectors. Make sure that the connectors are centered over the base plate. And you can ensure this by securing it with a couple of pieces of duct tape.
Now that the pool is level and round, we can go ahead and finish preparing our pool bottom. Remember, we used a pre-cut styrofoam bottom for our pool. But if you're using sand, spread it evenly across the bottom of the pool, right up to the base rails, and tamp it slightly.
Once you've got the pieces together, use some duct tape over the seams just to make sure they don't come apart.
Regardless of whether you've used sand or a pool bottom, you'll need to make a gently curved cove around the bottom edge of the pool using brick sand.
The cove is an important part of the pool structure because it redistributes the water pressure to the bottom edge of the pool wall. The cove must be 6 inches or 15 centimeters high and about 8 inches or 20 centimeters wide all around the pool. Pack the cove firmly, but make sure you don't push too hard or you could move the pool wall.
With 6 and 12-inch skimmers, you'll need to install a wall saver gasket before adding the liner. It acts as a safeguard against corrosion and provides a watertight seal around the skimmer cutout. Gently spread apart the 2 layers of the gasket and install into the skimmer cutout so that it sandwiches the wall in between the 2 layers. Be careful not to tear or damage the gasket seam.
Now I'm going to show you a really good trick for installing the liner. You'll need a wet-dry shop vac, small piece of cardboard, and some duct tape. Place a piece of cardboard over the outside of the wall saver gasket you just installed and seal it in place using several lengths of duct tape. Now feed the hose from the shop vac into the skimmer return hole down to within 8 inches or 20 centimeters of the sand cove. Don't put it too close or you'll suck up the sand. Now seal around the hole with duct tape.
After your liner has warmed up in the sun for a while, fold it up gently, carry it to the side of the pool, and place it carefully over the wall. It's important now to determine what kind of liner you're using. Check the edge of the liner. If it looks like this, you have a beaded liner. If it looks like this, that's a V-bead liner. And if there's no finished edge, you have an overlap liner.
If you're working with a V-bead liner, here's what you need to do. Pull up the edge of the liner and remove just 2 lengths of slotted tube and 1 tube connector. Hang the V-bead over the edge of the pool wall and replace the slotted tubes and connectors. Move to the next set of 2 tubes and repeat this process until the liner is hung completely over the pool wall and covered with slotted tubes and connectors. Make sure your shop vac is properly grounded and turn it on. What this will do is draw the air out from under the vinyl liner to get rid of wrinkles. Now adjust the position of the liner so that the curved bottom seam is centered on the cove at the base of the wall. You can make those adjustments with a soft bristled push broom. Use the broom to smooth out any wrinkles in the pool bottom. Once you have most of the wrinkles gone, you can start filling it with water. Remove the hose, duct tape, and covering from the skimmer and skimmer return holes.
It's time now to install the vertical columns. The columns you're using may be different from the ones for our pool, so be sure to read your installation manual for instructions. You can see that on the top of these columns there are 3 small holes, and on the bottom there are only 2. Place the bottom of the vertical over the tabs on the base plate.
Using a cordless screwdriver and self-tapping screws, you want to fasten the vertical to the base plate on both sides. Okay, push it down just a bit. Beautiful.
Then we take a top plate like this one, put it on the outside of the column, hook it over the pool wall, and press it down into place over the vertical. Again, your top plates might be different from the ones we're using, so be sure to check your manual for complete instructions.
Now, you want to make sure that your verticals are perpendicular. You can do this by either using a carpenter's level or by aligning it with the ridges in the pool wall, like so. You're good to go. Then fasten the top plate to the vertical with 3 self-tapping screws. All right, let's fasten the other verticals just the same way. Now it's time for the top rails. They have a long side and a short side. Make sure the short side goes on the inside of the pool. These top plates have holes marked A, B, and C. We're going to align the slots of the top rails over holes A.
Now we'll do the same thing at the other end of the rail, and then keep on going until we have all the top rails installed.
Or holes A. Now at this point, we've got all the top rails on, fastened loosely. We want to walk around the pool and fairly vigorously give the vertical a shape towards the top end. This will make sure that the pool settles into a perfect circle.
Now we're going to shift the rails into position so that they line up evenly and tighten the screws down firmly.
Every pool kit comes with a top connector. This is to cover up the joints in between the top rails. Now, your top connector will come with specific guides, but let's show you how ours goes on. They require the use of a special tech screw, which you'll find in your top pack. Fasten the upper and lower halves of the top connector together using 2 tech screws. Make sure you hold the 2 parts together very tightly as you do this.
Hook the upper half of the top connector over the inside edge of the top rail like this. Then gently spread the sides of the lower half over the rail, down over the vertical column, just like that. Line up the holes in the connector with the holes in the vertical and fasten with 2 self-tapping screws.
When installed properly, the top connector should not touch the pool wall. So make sure you examine this area carefully and ensure there is a gap. Insert the plug into the lower half connector to hide the screws and press it firmly into place.
To install the foot covers, use a screwdriver to loosen the 2 self-tapping screws at the bottom of each vertical by 2 full turns.
Now, if you look inside the foot cover, you'll see 2 corner hooks here and here, a center tab here. You'll also see 2 long side tabs. The corner hooks and center tab have to lock into these 2 notches and the rectangular slot in the vertical column. The long side tabs hook over the screws.
Slip the foot cover over the vertical column, then push the sides inward as you slide it down into place. Make the hooks fasten into the notches. Then insert a screwdriver through the holes in the foot cover and retighten the self-tapping screws.
Now you can keep adding water up to the level of the skimmer opening while you're installing the skimmer